The city of Cape Girardeau recently hired a firm to conduct a comprehensive study about the city's services from the perspective of citizens and businesses. In addition, the survey benchmarked Cape Girardeau against other communities of comparable size. Here to talk about this customer satisfaction survey is Cape Girardeau City Manager Scott Meyer. Scott, thank you so much for coming by to talk with us.
It's always good to be here.
First off, why did the city decide that we needed to do this survey?
Well, as with most businesses, you really want to understand what your customers believe about the service you have. And so we really want to find out what they believed and how that benchmarks against other cities our size, and therefore identify ways that we can improve and target areas for improvement to get the most bang for the buck.
Well, what are some of the things that are covered in the survey?
Well, they really ask kind of a benchmark of questions of, what do you think our city is strong in? What are the things that are important to our city? So it's not only what we do well, but what is important to citizens and businesses alike. And then rating all of our services to identify those where we're stronger, those where we're weaker.
Oh, so why did you choose to talk with both businesses and with citizens? Well,
they're really two different perspectives, and they're both important. Citizens, are both pay taxes, but citizens are come at a different way. They have services that we provide through our utilities, through water, sewer, trash, fire, police, those types of things. Businesses, they're looking to grow their business, and so we interact with them differently. They have business licenses, they have regulations that we have, and so they have a different set of services that we need to identify.
So, what were some of the things that citizens, for instance, that they found that the Cape Girardeau was doing well?
Well, it's interesting. They thought that we were very good at having opportunities to serve, opportunities to be a part of volunteer organizations. They believe that our fire service is good, our emergency management is good, and they believe that we do a good job with our park system. Our park system was rated very high.
What were some of the things that citizens thought that the city could focus some more attention on?
Well, I guess not surprising with the economic times we're in. They believe that economic development is a key thing going forward, and so they were looking at economic development and jobs. They also picked out our stock of homes and buildings and improving those, as well as nuisance violations of weeds and those types of things.
And when you're talking about some of the codes and such, and some of the ins in the stock of buildings, and this is something the city's already starting to tackle right now.
Absolutely, we've have identified a few years back going in that's an area that we needed to strengthen. So we've taken some steps to do that. We're getting ready to do a rental property certification process that will really hold those landlords responsible, as well as the tenants responsible for not only the properties, but the care and upkeep of those properties for both the tenant and the landlord.
Now, how about businesses? Did businesses come at this? You mentioned they come with a different perspective than the citizens. Were the results pretty similar with what businesses were saying?
Well, they were. They were a little. They were focused a little more on economic development, of course, and they focused a little more on police service and parking was some of the things that were a little more important to them. And so they focused on those things. They also said that we had good transportation and good opportunities, but it was a little bit different. But the common theme in both was looking for ways to help the economic development of the city.
So how did Cape Girardeau stack up when you compared the results from this survey with other cities of comparable size? How did we benchmark against them?
Well, we did really well, and I mentioned earlier in parks. We were strong in some of our other core fire, some of those other core services. We didn't compare as well in some of the things we already talked about, in the nuisance abatement, in our stock and our housing stock and business stock. Those were things that were identified needed to improve in, as well as economic development.
So now that you have all this data, you have all this survey information. How is the city going to use this? How is it going to take that information and put it into action?
Well, we are in the process now of really going and getting into the depths of the data, digging in and really finding things and cross-referencing. So I've asked each of our department heads to go and look in their area and really break it down into not just specifically, oh, we need to work on our weed abatement, but how do we know who is saying that, where are they saying it within the city, and so how can we then come up with an action plan to address and to improve in those areas. So we'll be identifying 5 or 10 areas to then move forward with improvement plans to see how we can better serve the citizens as well as the businesses in the city of Cape.
Now, you mentioned that Cape Girardeau's parks ranked very high.
Mm-hmm.
One of those parks is Kappahaw Park, and the city right now has some ideas out there for making some improvements to this park, and you're looking for public input. What are some of the ideas that are floating around about Kappahaw Park right now?
Well, right now I think it's down to a couple of different plans, but you can mix and match the plans, so each of the factors. But it's really a total rework of Kappahaw. Now, then the mainstays of the pond and the bandstand, the ball field, those things are going to stay in place and be there. We'll dredge the pond and make it a better pond and better, more pleasant to be around. Maybe interact with it a little bit more. We may improve the seating around the band shell, and then the park. We may do a plaza going into the park, maybe a setting area out beyond the fence, or just some of the ideas that they have. But then really a rework of the playground equipment, also the engine will stay in place. The train engine will stay in place, and we'll be interacting with that as well. So come out and look at them, or look at them online and give us your comments. We need all the comments we can have.
It definitely seems like something that's going to take some time to do. But this won't be will this be something where you come in and do all of these things at once, or will this be kind of a gradual process?
It'll probably be a gradual process. Certainly, we don't have the funding to do the whole thing right now. We view it as making some incremental improvements, and then somewhere down the road, if we're looking at another parks and stormwater tax, maybe some of the larger improvements might be tied to that in the future.
We've been talking today with Scott Meyer. He's Cape Girardeau's city manager. Thank you so much for taking the time to come by and talk with us.
It's always enjoyable.
Coming up, Cape Girardeau's electric car convention. That's just ahead on Cape Chronicle.
Hey guys.
Yeah?
Hey look, the weather's changed. Looks like it's gonna be raining the whole weekend.
Oh!
The strongest families are built one moment at a time. For more ways to make every day count, visit facebook.com/makeeverydaycount.